Hey everyone, I'm personal injury and accident attorney Kevin Sullivan. Today I'm going to be talking about a few supercar accidents, the celebrities involved, and some tips for high net worth individuals when it comes to talking about accidents. Let's get to it.
Said, why are you laughing that you just wrecked this car? And you said, no, you don't know the funny part. It wasn't insured.
So I think we would be remiss if we didn't first start with Elon Musk and his McLaren F1. So if you haven't heard of Elon Musk, then you should probably Google him, but I highly doubt that considering his involvement with PayPal, Tesla, and now Twitter. So we're gonna start talking about his McLaren. Well, wait, how about we hear it from Elon himself? So he's gonna describe the accident and how everything happened.
The punchline's correct. So I was driving up Sand Hill Road with Peter Thiel, one of the co-founders of PayPal. We're actually driving to see Mike Moritz. This is in 2000. And so we're driving up Sand Hill Road. I didn't really know how to drive the McLaren. And Peter says, so what can this do? And then I'm probably number one on the list of famous last words. I said, watch this. So I floored it and did a lane change on Sand Hill. And so the McLaren has no traction control or anything. It's massive power to the wheels, so 640 brake horsepower, and it only weighs a ton. So it has massive power to weight. It can brake the wheels free at 80 miles an hour. So broke the rear end free and started spinning. I sort of, let's see, I think it was sort of, I was going straight and then turned, and I remember seeing the cars coming towards me while I was going backwards. And then we hit an embankment, sort of a 45-degree embankment on Sand Hill, which tossed the car into the air like a discus. And it kept rotating with about 3 foot of air clearance, according to witnesses. And then slammed down on the ground, going the original direction. And we blew the suspension out. Now, it didn't actually wreck the car. The core chassis and the engine were okay.
Thank God.
But all the glass and the wheels and everything was shredded, and there was massive body damage in the front and rear. Yeah.
So accident tip number one thing I would definitely tell clients to be careful with, especially if they are a high net worth individual, is having passengers in their vehicle. So you can hear in the interview when Elon mentions being in the car with famed investor Peter Thiel. Now, Peter was a passenger in this accident, and we're not here to place any fault or any blame on anybody, but it sounds like Elon is likely at fault. As a passenger, Peter could have a claim against Elon. Now, obviously, we have to go into a lot more details, etc., but this is an example, and we want to use that to say you have to be very careful, because if you are found at fault for an accident, then you could be held accountable by your passengers. So make sure if you have passengers in the vehicle that you drive very safely, because they may have a claim against you. Next up, we want to talk about Rowan Atkinson, also known as Mr. Bean, and his McLaren F1. So he bought this vehicle in 1997, and he paid a little less than $1 million for it. Soon after he purchased the vehicle, he then got in a rear end accident, causing very little damage. But 12 years later, he got in a much more significant accident and actually hit a tree. This caused nearly $1.4 million in damage that he paid for, and he was without the car for a significant period of time. But that paid off for him in 2015 because he sold the car for roughly $12.2 million. So not a bad investment if you ask me. Accident tip number two when it comes to this example, you want to make sure that you have collision coverage on your vehicle, especially if you're in a supercar, an exotic car, or a very expensive car. Now, the reason that I say that is in the state of Florida, where I'm located, you're not required to have more than $10,000 in property damage coverage. Basically, that means that if the at-fault hits you, they may only have the state limits of $10,000. Well, what does that mean for you? Any damages beyond that $10,000, you could go after that individual for, but good luck, we're opening up a whole nother can of worms there. So what would you have to do? You would either have to rely on your insurance, which is why I would recommend that you have collision coverage, or you would have to pay out of pocket. So make sure you weigh out those options, and in the long run, I would very much suggest having collision coverage. So in June of 2019, famed comedian Tracey ended up purchasing a Bugatti Veyron Grand Sport. It was his dream car from my understanding, and not even 45 minutes after he picked up this vehicle in New York was he hit by a Honda CR-V. So again, with the last example, I would absolutely make sure that you have collision coverage. Although this incident doesn't seem very bad, I can only imagine what the Honda CR-V's insurance company would be saying when they called. You hit a what? Next up in 2013, we have DJ Afrojack buying his Ferrari 458, a red Ferrari 458. And the reason why I said that twice is because that is one of my favorite cars. I love the 458, the style, the sound. We'll leave it at that because I could go on forever. But he bought this car, and again, not even 30, 45 minutes after he picked up this vehicle, he was involved in an accident. And he actually posted something alluding to fault. I would tell you that is a bad idea. Make sure whether you are at fault or not, absolutely do not post anything on social media when it comes to your accident. This is the lowest hanging fruit when it comes to the insurance company investigating these claims because it's easy to find. They're going to use everything they can to either prove fault or to try to devalue your claim as much as possible. So make sure after an accident, no matter what, you stay off social media. Don't post posts, don't post pictures, don't post anything. And finally, in March of 2007, we have famed comedian Eddie Griffin driving a Ferrari Enzo, which is also one of my favorite cars, but again, we'll leave that alone. I love me some Ferraris. I love Lamborghinis, McLarens, Rolls Royces. I love them all, but Ferraris are definitely incredible, and especially this Enzo that we're talking about. So he was actually driving on a track nonetheless, and he was preparing for an upcoming charity event when the vehicle went out of control and he hit a barrier. So the vehicle was actually reported that it was owned by one of the producers for one of these upcoming events or upcoming movies. So I'm very, very sorry for that gentleman. But long story short, which is pretty incredible actually, the car was actually bought and fixed by a group, and they did an absolutely incredible job, and I put those photos there. We're gonna go with 2 accident tips here. Number 1 is you need to be careful who you let drive your vehicle. Obviously, this is a single car accident, so this tip won't completely apply. But if you let somebody else drive your vehicle in the state of Florida, there is a legal principle known as vicarious liability, meaning one is held in the same place as the other. Basically, if the driver causes an accident, you in the state of Florida can also go after that driver as well as the owner of the vehicle. So you want to be very careful about who you loan your cars out to, if at all. My suggestion, don't let anybody drive your vehicles. Number 2 is we want to make sure, again, like I said, you have collision coverage on your vehicles. These are very expensive supercars, hypercars, exotic cars. Don't take a chance on something happening and then you having to come out of pocket. Thank you for watching. Smash that thumbs up button. We'll see you guys next time.